My name is Paula Adams, and I'm the instructor for LIBR 1105 for spring 2015. In this brief tutorial, you will learn a little bit about how to access the HathiTrust digital library and learn a little bit about its collections. In the PowerPoint presentation that coincides with this video, you will have learned a little bit about the history behind the HathiTrust and how it was put together. And that would be in October of 2008. It started with 13 research libraries that came together and decided to share their digital collections. Interestingly enough, the HathiTrust, the word Hathi, is a Hindi term used in India for elephant. And as we all know, elephants are well known for their long-term memory. And that blends really well with the mission behind this project, which is to store, collect, and preserve human knowledge. And you'll find a lot of things here that was published, for example, 400 to 500 years ago, even more. Before 1923. And what you have to remember with what you have access to has a lot to do with copyright law. Basically, anything that was published before 1923 will be in what we call the public domain, which means anyone can access it and use it. However, items that are published after 1923 may be protected by copyright, which means of the 10,000 volumes that you're going to find in the HathiTrust digital library, 2.7 million are in the public domain. However, that leaves about roughly 6.8 or 9 million items that are not in the public domain that you may not have access to. However, I have been searching this particular research database, this digital collection, for a while now, and I'm finding some things that are published recently, but they're covered by Creative Commons licenses. Remember, later in this semester, we're going to talk about a lot of that. We're going to talk about copyright, public domain. We're going to talk about also Creative Commons licenses, which is what we're finding a lot on items that are created and published online. It tends to be digital content. So I want to show you a little bit about how to begin to search this database, but I will say also I chose to, instead of creating copious amounts of PowerPoint slides with a lot of information on it, I'm trying to circumvent some of that by creating tutorial videos. So by no means is this a video that you can watch one time and think you've learned everything. Take your time, come back to this video, rewind to learn some things here, because a lot of the information that you're going to learn here in this video, and I will make sure or ask that you research and explore this particular website even further. For example, if you want to learn more about the partnership, click this link here. There's also additional links for their browsing collections, how to read their books online, and also how to access on mobile devices right over here. But on your midterms and your finals and with the assignment, there's a lot of information that you're going to need to come back to in this video, so keep that in mind. To get started, I'd like to show you how to search the collections here. There is a full text search, which is a broad search, quite different, and it's not filtered. It doesn't have any filters. You kind of filter after you get your results. However, with the catalog search, you have several filters that you can use from the start: title, author, and subject, as well as a few other filters here you have accessible to. Now, we're going to start with a keyword search, a simple search, and we're going to start with the catalog search. I'm going to put in a name that should be very familiar to many. I'm going to put in Shakespeare. We would like to search Shakespeare. I'm going to choose author here. So we're only looking for authors written, we're only looking for Shakespeare as the author, so we're looking for works written by Shakespeare. So let's go ahead and submit this search, knowing that the default view will be the full view. So these items, we're going to be able to see the entire item. So if we click search, and right here we see we've pulled up a little over 5,200 resources that are in full view. However, total items come to a little over 7,000. So if we do the math between that, there are some items here roughly around a little over 2,000 that will not be full view. You will get the citation information, basically the title, possibly the library that owns that particular title, as well as the year it was published and who published it, which according to this search should be William Shakespeare. But before we get into any of our titles here, let's look over here to other filters that we have. We can filter by subject just through these results that we've pulled up, because we don't have time and it's not efficient to go page by page. And I'm going to reiterate that as I show you how to search other database resources throughout this course. So use your filters. You can filter by subject. If I expand that with the results here, if I only wanted to look at Shakespeare's dramas that deal with Jews in Italy, moneylenders, if I want to look at any of his operas, okay, any of his plays pertaining to father and daughters, and I know the one that jumps out to me would be King Lear, for example. If I do that, then look, if I choose fathers and daughters, there are 33 items listed. That's going to take me out of this 5,200, so it's going to give me a more manageable list of results to use. I'm going to go ahead and shrink that. We also have, let's see, language. You're going to find lots of items in the HathiTrust by different languages, because as well, a lot of these libraries own resources that are published in different languages. There are partnerships with other libraries around the world, and when they digitize and input their resources in this digital library, they're in different languages as well, which can be understandable. And you can click this for more to see other languages as well. So for example, if we wanted to weed this down to just English, okay, that's going to take our results down a bit. There's place of publication, if that matters to you, if it's important, date of publication, and that can be important too, because you can look at the original, and as we know about Shakespeare, he during the time in which his plays were published, Old English was used, and that's quite different from the English that we use today. So a lot of his plays and titles that may have been published after his life, which I think would be after the 1620s, you had a lot of republishings, which means you had a lot of translations of his work, still keeping to the integrity of his work, but they are considered primary resources too. So maybe to look at a different translation from another author might be important. Also original format, and if it's important to you, original location. Alrighty. Now what I like to do from this point is to go into one of these titles. I want to go into the first one here. A Pleasant Conceited History, called The Taming of a Shrew, which is one of my favorite plays by Shakespeare. It was published in 1939, so this is going to lead me to believe that this is a translation of this work, which is cool, which is good, because hopefully if I read it, I may better understand it than the Old English. Let's go to full view. And let's just see here. Regardless of the titles that you pull up, always look here to the left menu bar and look at the copyright statement. This is telling me that I have access to view the full document because it's in the public domain. Sometimes if you find a title that was published, let's say after 1923, and you're like, oh my God, I have full access to this, then it might be because it's a Creative Commons. But this is in the public domain, even though it was published after 1923. It's a translation of a work that's in the public domain that was published in the 1600s. So sometimes you have to kind of pay attention to what you've actually pulled up. Now, I want to talk about the features you have to view this item in several different ways. I'm going to go back to the beginning of this book, actually. I don't know what that is. I want to go to scroll, because you have different ways that you can view this work. You can scroll through the up and down here if you want to scroll. We find that this book was scanned from the University of Michigan, my sister's alma mater. Mine is Michigan State University. So yeah, we have issues sometimes during football and basketball season. But anyhow, you will see right here, this is the original text, the original publication date. This published play was published in 1596 by Shakespeare, titled Taming of the Shrew. And evidently there's been this right here is a published translation that was published in 1939. You also have the flip. Okay, so if you wanted to go page by page, almost just like holding the book in print. I like this feature myself. Also, if you want to see many pages at one time, click the thumbnail. Let's see, when we click this here, we get many pages. And of course, you click on one page, it'll bring that one page up. And of course, kind of familiar with any PDF documents that you're familiar with, you can zoom in or zoom out if you want to. Also, there's the page by page. It brings up one page at a time, and you can progress through it with the arrows at the top. Let's say you don't want to look at the original text itself that's been digitized. Sometimes it could be a little difficult, excuse me, depending on the quality of the scanning. You might want to use plain text. And right here again, you can advance through. I'm not sure what these funny little symbols are. This right here, it has taken the original text and has put it in a different text format for you. Okay. Now I want to talk about downloading and what privileges we have. Even though this item is in the public domain, because we are not part of this consortium per se, we're not one of the institutions listed here. And I'm just going to segue over here to the login. Right over here, if our institution is not listed as one of the institutions contributing digitized resources, then we only have so much access as far as downloading. For example, Columbus State University at this time is not a part of this consortium or this grouping. However, I did see Emory and I did see Georgia Institute of Technology, Georgia Tech, listed here. Maybe University of Georgia or Georgia State. No, I didn't see Georgia State actually. Okay, so we don't have those permissions to download the whole book. If you try to download a whole book that you do not have access in this collection, this is what's going to happen. Okay, it's going to ask you to log in. And at this time, we can't do that. However, you can download pages. Not the total book, but pages out of the book. You could do that. Also be careful, sometimes I'm seeing this gibberish right here in the plain text. Sometimes you may have to change your browser. Right now I'm in Firefox, and sometimes that'll kind of help with that if you have issues. Sometimes it'll turn your text into gibberish. But at any rate, I want to get back to the HathiTrust homepage. So in this video, what I'll do is I'll cut this in two. We have learned a little bit about the background of the HathiTrust Digital Library, and we've explored the catalog search. In the next video, we will discuss the full text search, and I'll go through some of the features here, for example, the browse collections in our next video. So be sure you take a look at that.